Okay, so one of the things that we wanted to do this morning, it's a little different, okay? What we wanted to do this morning is as we look back and we hear stories, we wanted to provide you guys with an opportunity. There's so many stories in this church. Like if we just look around, each of you have history here, and each of you have stories. Each of you have experiences. So we grabbed a couple people in our church that we wanted to come and share their story and ask them some questions about their experience here. So we're going to do that. The first couple is going to be Tony and Jessica Nelson. Can you guys give them a hand as they make their way forward? Right there. You guys got to share a mic. We're a little bit of a little bone dry, a little bit. We can't even adjust the lights, So we got one mic for you. And you got to put it close to your mouth, I think.
Oh.
Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. I know, Jessica, you were on staff, and I missed those days. So I think about them all the time, how awesome it was to have you. But anyways, first question I have for you. So this is kind of a softball. It's kind of the first one. Like, how did you guys come to Wells Branch Community Church? Like, how did you wind up here? Why Wells Branch Community Church? And who are you?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Tony and Jessica Nelson. And we have 3 kiddos, ages 13, 3, and 10 months. And we came to Wells Branch in 2013, I think. Yep. We had a friend who started coming to this church who we graduated college with, and she had invited us, but we didn't come right away. Tony was not a believer, and so and we were going through a hard time because I had just had a baby who was born with a hole in her heart, and she had to have open heart surgery, and life was rough. And so my friend went to her church and asked them to pray for us. So Wells Branch Community Church was praying for us before we even came here. And so one day, I think Angelina was 1 year old when I started coming to this church, and eventually Tony started coming with me too. So,
and the way that I got here was I was told that there was a military guy who was the pastor that loved to debate theology and would welcome all of my really challenging questions and perspectives on how weak I thought Christians were. So I was like, great, free coffee and a good debate. Let's do it.
But yeah, so you guys have both been here a long time. So what are some of the things that you've done since you've been here? Like community group shepherds?
Yeah, so we've served in a bunch of different ministries over the years. We have been community group leaders for, I believe this is year 8 that we've been doing that, and so that's kind of been the spot where we've landed and felt that we could have the greatest impact here at the church.
Awesome. So, go ahead. You're a person too. Go ahead. Sorry. Same question.
Repeat the question.
The question is, so I know that you've got both community group shepherds, and I've obviously shared that you were on staff for a season.
Right.
Like, is there anything else that you've done here at Wells Branch Community Church since you've been here?
Yes, I led the hospitality team for a couple of years, and that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Did you want me to?
And you're still here. You led it, and you're still here.
I am.
Did you talk about people leaving the hospital?
No, it was rough at first. James Foster asked me if I wanted to run the hospitality team, and I had no experience with doing anything. I didn't even know how to work the coffee maker. And I only said yes because I was like, oh, I get to lead something. That's fun. And then I found out everyone else on the hospitality team was leaving. And so,
that's a kicker. Yeah.
Yes, it was very hard because I was doing it for selfish reasons, selfish motivations. And God humbled me through that experience. And I got to a point where I had to decide, hey, I'm serving the Lord. I'm not serving myself. And like I said, it was really hard. I had to talk to a lot of people and be hospitable. That was not my strength. It was a weakness. And that ministry taught me a lot.
Oh, good. So being here at the church all these years, how is being a part of this community in Wells Branch Community Church, the family of Wells Branch Community Church, how has that kind of shaped your marriage and family as it grows?
Yes. So my parents were not believers. And so when I came to this church and I saw the families, just how they operated, I was a fairly new believer. I became a believer in college, and I had never been discipled, and I was a church hopper. So this was my first experience of coming to a church on a regular basis. And the families, it was super interesting. So this experience is very clear in my mind of in the rec center, someone's kid was acting up, and the mom took the kid to the restroom and started talking to him real sweetly. And I was like, that's weird. Like, shouldn't you just spank them and teach them how to do that? Like, that's the point of discipline, right? But, I didn't apply, oh yeah, since I'm a Christian now, there's this thing called discipling my kids and training them up in the Lord. And the purpose of discipline is different than when I was growing up with non-believing parents. Like, there's a purpose to it. And so just seeing the marriages here and how people parent, I love it. I have these memories of Adrian's kids being really little babies and her just having this huge smile on her face while she's worshiping. And just like, it just made me realize, hey, children are not a burden. Children are a blessing. And this church treated children like a blessing. They weren't an interruption. I just experienced this community that just cherished marriages. And I got to see marriages that were also struggling, but they were supported and loved. And they even had us up here on Sunday morning to talk about our struggles in our marriage. And it's not something they swept under the rug. It's not something they hid. They wanted us to talk about it. And so I was finally able to process through things that I had never processed through before.
That was a great Sunday, by the way. I don't know if anyone's here for that, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So I'll talk about that side because I think that's probably the most impactful for me. So for those of you who don't know us, a little background on our story is a month into our marriage, we had an affair. And so from the very beginning, we've had a pretty, I don't want to say from the very beginning, like from the day one, right? It was not a great start to the marriage. And it just was filled with a lot of anger and resentment toward one another for quite a while. And so coming here and not being a believer, her being a believer, I thought this was going to be a great place for her to fix herself and get right. And it was in the community of people that I really began to look at how good, strong marriages should be built and formed. And I just needed to have a hard reset on my expectations for marriage. What did a good outcome look like? How should husbands sacrificially love their wives? And I hadn't really understood the depth of what that meant. So this was a really formative time for me. And then also seeing her go through a pretty radical change. She kind of grew up under the mindset that you don't need a man, right? She was kind of in a radical feminist place in her life at that particular point. And to see the shift for her going from that into a wife who desired to submit to me as a leader, even when I was wrong, and understand that there was great covering and protection for her as a wife in that unity in the household was a pretty it's totally changed the trajectory of our lives. And so just the discipleship that we got to experience here from that perspective, but also, like she said, the pretty blunt way of approaching the problems and just saying, yeah, this is a sin problem that you've got to correct. Let's not dance around it. Let's fix it, repent, and change things.
Yeah, that's great. Big clap for that. So as next week we're at Breakaway, right? And we're opening those doors, and new communities coming into our Christian community, going to experience like our community. What's the one thing, if you were to look at the time that you spent here, that you hope that we kind of continue as we move forward in Breakaway in Brushy Creek?
I think there's two things that are connected, but they're two very specific things for me. I think first, at least for us, the community is what has made this church so impactful. I hear about other people's experiences at other churches, and it's like they go to a place where there's a good message being preached, but then they lack the community that really cares well for one another outside of the Sunday service. And for me, I think that's kind of the lifeblood of what makes this such a great environment for us to constantly grow and raise our children up, is having that really tight-knit relationship. And so I think number one is being able to have that community where we can actually plug in and be known well enough to have people celebrate the wins and mourn the losses with us. But then the other side of that, and this is connected but separate, is that the men are really vulnerable with each other. Like, it's really odd for other people who are not a part of this community to hop in and go, you dudes share a lot of stuff with each other. That's way deeper than what I'm used to seeing. And so I think that's actually a really good thing because men have a tendency to isolate and not talk about stuff. And I think that iron sharpening iron is one of the greatest things that I've had from the men in particular as part of this church. It's just calling each other out on sin issues, holding each other accountable, getting better, following God with everything we've got.
So the community, very impactful. I was at a birthday party the other day and with a family that's Muslim, and I told them about Breakaway Church being across the street from Brushy Creek Sports Park. And they're like, yeah, that's right down the street from the mosque or the community center for the Muslims. And in my head, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot that it was such a close proximity. And I just remember I love going to that playground over at Brushy Creek Sports Park, and they have so many playgrounds. It's not just that one. They have like 5 or something. But I always remember seeing so many families. And like Tony said, this community is really unique. There's a lot of people that their families are trying to do life alone. I mean, we were trying to do life alone, and we were messing it up, and it was bad. So I just can imagine there's so many families that are looking for a family to be a part of, and our church family is so loving and caring, and so their church is going to be right across the street from there. So instead of me trying to get people to go somewhere that's kind of out of their way, it's like, hey, we're across the street. And our church is really great. The moms creating events to like hang out and do play dates. And I'm just so excited about getting to minister to that community in Brushy Creek.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming up here and blessing us with your stories. All right, our next couple, Tyler and Stephanie Huggins. Come on up. Yeah, I can do that again. Yeah, so is it deacon of membership or membership deacon? Both? Okay.
I think the official title is Deacon of.
Kind of like deacon of.
Yeah.
You know, it's like deacon of. All right. All right, so same softball question to start, okay? Like who are you guys? How did you get connected to Wells Branch? Who married you? You know, any of those types of things can get thrown in there. So anything, like who are you guys? How did you get connected? Why Wells Branch Community Church?
So yeah, my name's Tyler Huggins. I grew up in the church. I grew up as a believer, went to church as a kid, went through a long swath in my teenage years where I was just out of church. Family, some church hurt. I hate to use that term, but some division happened. My parents said, hey, we'll just do home church for a while, and did that through most of my teenage years. So I had only been kind of returned to the church scene for about just a few years after I became an adult, before a friend invited me to the young adults group at Wells Branch Community Church. And the night I went, this is where I got to be. Like, I know it immediately, seeing the community and the way people were with each other. And so that got me connected. I kind of did double duty between the young adults group and this other church for a couple of years until I jumped in here with both feet.
Awesome.
So I was exposed to Wells Branch Community Church long before I ever actually jumped in, kind of similarly. So I actually started coming full-time in 2015, fall of 2015. But prior to that, I actually had a friend who was attending what is now Parkway, and she was attending that at the time. And the house I grew up in is I could see the annex from my house. And so it was shortly after Wells Branch had been planted in the annex. And I remember hearing from my friend about Todd passing away. So I remember praying every time I saw the annex, praying for Wells Branch Community Church, not having any idea I would ever end up here. And then just various invites to young adult things, going to Kenny's coffee shop when we would do worship nights there and things like that. So getting to just see a little bit of the people at the church. And I was raised in a home that attended church regularly. My parents are strong believers in walking faithfully with the Lord. And so I had that example growing up. And my sister actually attended Wells Branch from the invite of this friend and attended here for about a year. And so I actually came with her one time. She invited me to just see what it was like. And what's funny is, it was when it was in the rec center at that point, but what's funny is I actually wasn't a huge fan at the time. I remember being like,
The worship leader, right?
yeah. No. But it was odd to me that the worship team switched up because the church I was at, it was the same people every week. So, that was odd to me. But anyway, there was just little things about it. I was like, it's great for her. Obviously, they're teaching the Bible. That's awesome. But I was like, it's not for me. Stayed at the church I was at, that I had been raised in. And then fast forward a few years, I was in a position where I felt like God was leading me to find young adult community and not just be serving. The church I was at didn't really have a good way for me to be poured into. And so I was seeking that out, and the first thing that came to mind was Wells Branch Community Church, because I had had all those experiences up to that point. And similar to what Tyler said, as soon as I walked in the doors, I started at the Wells Branch Young Adults Ministry at the time, and went there. First time I was there, I was like, this is home. And started coming on Sunday mornings and have been here ever since.
Awesome. So you guys both have like church history, right? It's different, but you both have it. Looking back and like kind of where you come from, what's unique about Wells Branch that you see differently from how the churches you grew up in?
Nelson's talked about this, and I don't think that we can do a retrospective on our church without just highlighting the community aspect. And one of those things is the intentionality of it to me. The fact that we do community groups, we don't just show up on Sundays. We highly encourage people to get connected in circles as well as rows. And it creates this culture of doing life together. In a way that I think a lot of churches end up missing. Some of that I think is the size of the church, but there is a really intentional effort to create that connection, to create opportunities for that connection, and it works. It worked for us, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, the authenticity side of it, not that I hadn't met authentic Christians up to that point, but one of the things that stuck out to me was the seriousness of sin, of talking about sin, of the boldness and the how people have the culture of confession and discipleship in such a way that talks about the deeper things, that provided a space for me to think through my heart where I was at and not just stay where I was at. And I think that's something that's really unique, that even to this day, not just the churches I had experienced growing up, but just in talking to other Christian friends or people in the community, like the idea of talking about your deepest, darkest secrets, like Tony was saying, like talking about those things with other believers is practically unheard of, even in the church world these days, or it's at least more rare. And so I think that's a really unique thing that I've really treasured and seen help me grow a lot in my relationship with the Lord.
Yeah. Is there any event or ministry or anything that you guys have been involved in that you've seen over the years that maybe holds a special place in your heart?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the well was both of our entry points into this community, and for the season that it was, it really was an amazing thing. So much of my discipleship and growth as a believer came through that time, through the well, and the opportunities to, be introduced to ideas like church membership, and the commitment level, being challenged as a leader, being challenged as a man, confronting sin. These things were all introduced to me in a way that I hadn't really seen before, and so that was a really special time. And also just so many other life elements to all of that, meeting Stephanie, and the community that we got to share together ultimately brought us together, the people involved in all of that. It's been great. Yeah, and it's not really a church event or a ministry, but just as an outcropping of the community, just like when my mom passed away in 2019, the church really came together and helped us put on a memorial and community groups. I still have no idea who they were put money together and got sandwiches and put this whole event together, and it really surrounded me with love and the support that we needed.
For me, as far as ministries, my heart has been very much, and experience has been very much involved in worship ministry. And I started out at the Well in the young adult ministry, playing there. I started in that even before I officially became a member. And that was one of those times where the guy who was putting the band together posted on Facebook, "Hey, we need a keyboard player." And I was like, "Pick me," because I really wanted to do it. And I was excited to do that. And that led eventually into getting to play on Sunday mornings. And so that's just been still near and dear to my heart. And then just over the years, and now kind of in a more official capacity, getting to have our American Sign Language ministry.
Skynet.
Yeah.
They're taking over.
So getting to have to see God work in that, and the ASL ministry is something that I had actually had at my previous church in a smaller capacity, but had it there. And it was one of the things that kept me at that church, that I didn't move on to a different church, because I was like, well, if I leave, they won't have anybody, and those kinds of things. And it was actually shortly after I came to Wells Branch that I saw how God actually provided that again in little ways, where we would have deaf people come here and there that needed interpreting. And it was just really encouraging to see how God provided that he was faithful to say, even though I left this there, I could still have it here and have a place to minister in that way. And so now getting to do that in a more official capacity within the church has been really a blessing as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Love you both dearly. Thank you so much for your stories, and